You may think of crop insurance as a way to protect your farm from disaster, but it can also help protect your profits and allow you to be more confident in your grain marketing decisions. In this video, we'll cover how to use crop insurance as a grain marketing tool, complete with step-by-step timeline recommendations. We'll start with calculating your cost of production and choosing crop insurance coverage. Then using that information to set your marketing goals, calculating scenarios for first, second, and third future sales using forward pricing. Looking at how these decisions net out at harvest and the potential impact of making no forward sales. Let's work through a simple example, step by step, to demonstrate how crop insurance can be used as a marketing tool to forward contract your grain at the best possible price. The first step is to determine what level of insurance coverage you need, and this all starts with knowing your cost of production. To use a simple scenario, let's say you have 100 acres of corn. You would need to determine all of the expenses associated with growing your corn crop, including seed, fertilizer, machinery, rent, and other operating costs. In this example, let's say your total expenses are $75,000 for this operation. Next, divide your total expenses by the number of acres you farm to determine your cost per acre. In this instance, $750 per acre. Now that you know your cost of production, you can start to determine your insurance coverage level. This farm will use an annual production history, or APH, of 185 bushels and multiply that by a spring futures corn price of $5, giving an estimated value of $925 per acre. To ensure your operation has adequate coverage, you can multiply this estimate by different coverage percentages to calculate your revenue guarantee. For example, 80% coverage would represent $740 per acre of minimum revenue guarantee. As you can see, this doesn't quite cover your estimated cost of production. Instead, you might opt to raise your coverage to 85%, securing $786 per acre. Note that this higher level of coverage will impact your cost of production. So in this example, we'll assume it adds $10 per acre, making your new cost of production $760. The $786 per acre revenue guarantee would cover your cost of production and give you some wiggle room for profit. Of course, we know there are factors that can affect these numbers. If your production increases or decreases, you incur additional expenses, or prices fluctuate, your numbers will be impacted. Let's say that we opt for the 85% coverage of $786 per acre. How does this decision help set goals around marketing? At 85% coverage and an APH of 185, this means that 157 of your bushels per acre are protected and will be covered in the event of a disaster. Multiply that by the 100 acres on this farm, and you have 15,700 guaranteed bushels to work with. Now, let's make a marketing goal to forward contract at least 50% or 7,850 of your guaranteed bushels during the growing season. This allows you to take advantage of seasonal price spikes before harvest and is a conservative place to start until you feel more comfortable with setting a higher percentage goal. So your guarantee is for 157 bushels. But let's say you expect to actually produce 200 bushels per acre this year, potentially giving you more bushels to work with. We're almost ready to make crop sales. But before we can sell our crop, we must determine the break-even point, which will help guide marketing decisions. To calculate this, divide your cost of production by the number of bushels you expect to produce, 200 bushels per acre, to determine your break-even point of $3.80. This means you need to sell the crop for more than $3.80 per bushel in order to have a profit. Let's see how this plays out during a growing season. It's May. You've just finished planting your 100 acres, and you notice the December futures price for corn is $5.12. You call your local elevator and find out their price is $5. Because the price is above your calculated break-even point of $3.80 per acre, you decide to contract 2,000 bushels to be delivered in December at $5 per bushel. This gives you $10,000 in future sales. By revisiting your original expenses, and subtracting $10,000 from your first future sale, you now have $66,000 in production costs yet to cover and 18,000 bushels yet to sell, yielding an updated break-even of $3.67, down from your original break-even point of $3.80. Fast forward to June. You check the December corn futures again and notice this time it's above $6. So you call your local elevator and learn that their bid is $5.90, which is above your updated break-even of $3.67. You decide to sell 4,000 more bushels to deliver in December at $5.90, giving you $23,600 from the sale. By subtracting your second future sale from total costs, you're left with $42,400 in remaining expenses to cover and 14,000 bushels to sell at an updated break-even point of $3.03. Throughout the summer months, your crop continues to develop, and you are feeling good about the yield potential. But even if the crop had challenges, you are selling against your insurance guarantee, so you're still protected. In July, you see December futures for corn are $5.56, with your local elevator offering $5.50. Although this price isn't as great as your last sale, it is still above your updated break-even of $3.03, and you decide to stick with your marketing plan to make incremental sales. To reach your goal of forward contracting 50% of your guaranteed bushels, you decide to contract 1,850 bushels to deliver in December at $5.50, giving you a total of $10,175 in sales. Your total costs to cover comes down to $32,225, with 12,150 bushels left and an adjusted break-even of $2.65. At this point, if you sell your remaining bushels above $2.65, you'll still be making a profit. Rolling forward to fall, it's harvest time, and you are happy to discover that you did indeed produce 200 bushels per acre as expected. You call your local elevator and get a harvest price of $4 and sell your remaining 12,150 bushels, giving you a final sale of $48,600. Take your last sale, $48,600, minus your remaining expenses, $32,225, and you've turned a profit of $16,375. So, we were able to forward contract with confidence because of the crop insurance guarantee we had, and it paid off. What would have happened if you didn't make any forward sales? If you only took the cash price at harvest, you would have sold 20,000 bushels at $4 per bushel for a total of $80,000. Subtract your initial expenses of $76,000, and you're left with only $4,000 in profit. With crop insurance, you were able to forward market 7,850 of your 20,000 bushels with confidence, knowing they would be covered. This allowed you to take advantage of good prices in the market and dramatically increase your profit. Of course, there are other factors to consider, like how your actual costs compare to your projected costs and contracts with specific grain buyers. However, this example gives you an idea of how knowing your cost of production, selecting the right insurance coverage, and having a written plan can help you plan for profits. To start a conversation about how your crop insurance decisions and marketing goals can work together to provide the best financial return, reach out to your Frontier Farm Credit Insurance Officer or visit frontierfarmcredit.com.